as the exhibit has literally opened up a couple of minutes ago, most of the people in the room have not seen it. So this is the first time that they will get to hear the wonderful story of Jorgego Zalszupin. But that's but I just wanted to let Lissa know. Well, it is my incredible pleasure to welcome Lissa Carmona, the CEO of ETEL, the handcrafted furniture maker who's reviving and restoring iconic works by Brazilian legends like Oscar Niemeyer, Lina Bobarczy, and of course, Jorge Zalszupin. She really is an ambassador of Brazilian modern design and a guardian of memory, deeply committed to protecting the legacies of these incredible architects and designers. And this exhibit that you're about to see afterwards has been years in the making. In 2022, we celebrated a centennial of Jorge's birth, and Lissa is one of the curators of the exhibit, together with Maria Murawski, with whom Hania Rydlewska from the Visteria Foundation will be conversing afterwards. And I will set aside some time at the end for Q&A. Lissa really, we've had hours of conversations over dinner. She's an expert not only in design and architecture, but also politics and diplomacy and sustainability. So please approach her afterwards or, during our Q&A to ask some questions. Welcome.
Thank you, Zuzanna. Thank you, all of you. It's really an enormous pleasure to be here. It's very emotional for all of us. This exhibition, as was just said, started quite a few years ago, before even the centennial, when I met Kasia in Milan, and she discovered that Jorge Zalszupin was Polish, and she had such a beautiful legacy, beautiful pieces, and we were discussing how important this story is and how strong it is now to have the exhibition here as a bridge between two countries. So for all of us, it's much more than a design exhibition, than a history or person exhibition. It's really about reconnection. It's really about the bridges between two countries and about such a strong story of surviving and of success. Jorge was born here in Warsaw in 1922, arrived in Brazil in 1949, and became one of the most important actors of such a famous movement in Brazil called modernism. He was part of the construction of Brasilia, being asked by Oscar Niemeyer to supply the furniture. So he was a key figure in Brazil during his entire life. So his legacy in Brazil, and not only in Brazil, nowadays he's worldwide famous. Sometimes I joke, wherever you go, you name it, like an art fair in Shanghai, in Toronto, in New York, in Paris, for sure you'll find some Zalszupin pieces. He's really, really a success worldwide. And we are, especially myself, I'm very proud, and I don't like to use the word proud, but I'm very happy and very beyond words to say what is this exhibition, what does this exhibition mean, because we have worked together for more than 20 years, and he always mentioned Poland as his birth town, so there was this connection, was still there, so the idea of Warsaw, of Poland, remained with him, even though he lived his entire life in Brazil. His projection, his legacy, his artworks is Brazilian, so that was done in Brazil, is based in Brazil, but to bring back this legacy in dialogue, because I think this exhibition, the potential and the strength of this exhibition is not our perspective, it's our perspectives between Poland and Brazil, because we share the curatorship, Maria and I. So she gave the Polish perspective, we gave the Brazilian perspective of it. So it's really a dialogue. I hope we all like it afterwards.
Well, it really is a homecoming because it is the first major exhibit, the first major retrospective of his work in Europe. So this is a very, very special place. Speaking of homecoming, roots, reading also his memoir, I take he was very much a family man. His daughters, Veronica and Marina is actually here with us today. At the opening, they had given a very, emotional recollection of him as a father figure, but also speaking of him as a designer and architect from, the child's perspective, how he would take them to construction sites, his way of designing. And something you will see upstairs is that some of the furniture pieces even carry their names and the names of family members, even including the family dog. So there is a family table upstairs with all the chairs sat around. And I thought of those parallels because you too come from a family story, because you continue the legacy of your mother's company that she had founded in the 80s that was named after her, ETEL. And I'm thinking, is this just a Brazilian thing? The family values, like carrying on memory. Do you see this connection between Zalszupins and Carmonas?
Yes, of course, but I don't think it's just a Brazilian thing. I'm half Italian, half Brazilian, so this is pretty much Italian. So to carry the legacy. But I think in Brazil, we are, especially in the southeast of Brazil, we are very European. So those family values, family matters, legacy, and beyond the family is the legacy itself. So we have this sense, Brazil is a very young country. If you compare Brazil to Europe, this is not comparable. We are just 500 years, a bit more, even though we are a huge country, like more than almost 300 million people. But then history is something, when you think history with like caps, age, I think, wow, in Brazil it's a different perspective. So we have, and especially in our field, the creative field, architecture, design, art, that is very important for Brazil. Guilherme mentioned in the opening, in the preview, and he will talk today, that how architecture, design, and art, let me put all together, was part of our identity construction. So carrying on this legacy is something that for us feels really important, feels almost mandatory. So I do continue the legacy of my mother. My mother started a company long time ago, dedicated to craftsmanship, to this recovery and rediscovery of this exquisite craftsmanship that we had in the past. We had in the 50s, in the 60s. And for historical reasons in Brazil, we had lost. We had like a period of time that we were too close. All those great authors, all those great pieces somehow became hidden, became lost. So when she started her career, the first thing she thought, she started as a hobby, refurnishing, renovating old pieces. And then through it, she saw the beauty of the Brazilian woods, the exquisite of the finish. She said, oh my gosh, is this Brazilian? Where is it? I cannot find it anymore. So she started researching, and her work was truly based on this excellence of craftsmanship. And I continue in a different part, researching the history of the designers, the legacy, all this apogee, this golden period, all this. We were the most important country in the 40s, in the 50s for architecture and for design. So this legacy, those stories were lost even for us, Zuzanna. So the beautiful of the power of this exhibition, of those stories of legacy, of the continuation of legacy, is much more important than we can even think. That's how I say it. This is more like a nation exhibition. It's related to our country, is related to your country. So this is the strength of legacy, and I'm very proud to continue it.
And something that will be stressed later in a lecture by Guilherme Wisnik, whose last name also suggests that you have some family ties to Poland, is that Brazil is a country of immigration, of immigrants. You know, when we talk about constructing cities, constructing design, it's also about constructing brand new identities in a place, you know, where escaping trauma of the war, they could really forge a new life for themselves. So it is a fascinating place. I strongly recommend that this exhibit will just awaken your appetite to dig deeper and see more for yourself. And I've had a pleasure to visit Brazil numerous times, and I was there in January, and I stepped into Casa Zalszupin, as they say, Zalszupin in Brazil. And I was just struck away by the place. And I was wondering if you could give us a little tour for those who have not seen it, just to get a sense and a feel of the place. You know, when you enter from the gates in the lush neighborhood of Jardim Europa, very aptly named for its tropics, what do you see? What do you experience?
First of all, this house, we call it a museum house, was inspired by my Italian life, my Italian experience. So in Milan, it's quite common to have small places, small houses, private residence that becomes foundations, becomes a place for exhibition. Sometimes you don't even know, you're just walking and you find something extraordinary. So when Jorge passed away, I discussed it with Marina and Veronica what to do with his house. He has lived there for more than 60 years. All his archives, all his professional life was there. And besides that, I'm very interested, and I could even say passionate, about the architecture's residence, their own residence, because they worked as a laboratory. I even wrote about it last year, because there is their place to showcase, to try to test all their inspirations. So his house, that's now a very important museum house in São Paulo. We had done already 14 or 16 already exhibitions. Every 3 months we have a different exhibition with independent curators, always a dialogue between architecture, art and design. But talking about the house, as Zuzanna was there and most of you weren't, first is a house not to be seen, not to be showcased. So it's completely hidden in green. So part of the green that you're going to see in this exhibition is related to this aspect of the house. Very, very strong nature surrounding the house. So when you first enter the gate, you kind of somehow enter a temple. Almost you have to lean down. It's very quietful, very peaceful in the entrance. And it's funny, Zuzanna, because this is my second time here in Warsaw. And one of the things that first came to my mind when I was here in June is the silence. How quiet it is here comparing to São Paulo or to the other places I live or I visit. So this house, even though this neighborhood, Jardim Europa, that's very suggestive, Europe Garden, literally translating, is a very centered and very important neighborhood in São Paulo. And the house is in a corner located just in front of a church, a busy crossroad, but it's a temple, so it's very, very silent. Then when you enter the house, it's so interesting because then you can see all his reference, his inspirations. You can see a bit of Scandinavian architecture that he was quite fond of. You can see Le Corbusier a lot. You can see Ranchin. You can see also Brazilian features. The floor is, and also the staircase is in wood, in the very precious and famous wood in Brazil, jacaranda, translating rosewood, is the famous wood for the modernism. And the ceiling is in Riga pine, a wood from Europe. So it's really a very interesting house. And probably Guilherme will tell later, will show more. So you really have a tour throughout images with him. But he had a very specific role in terms of architecture-wise, in terms of architecture. He was not a brutalist, not even from the school of Rio, related to Niemeyer. So he had a very special place when we talk about architecture in São Paulo. And the way I could describe this role or this place is that he was worried and concerned about being cozy, being comfortable. So somehow it's like we call like a warm architecture is kind of to be protected much than to be showcased. So it's not a show house in that way, but it's precious house in terms of details, Zuzanna.
And it's a house that the family has lived in for 60 years. And you really feel the presence. You feel the presence. There's this room that was Annette's, the wife's and the mother's room that is covered with flowered wallpaper. And it's just like you still feel the spirit. You know, it's a house that's an embodiment. You cannot separate it from the architect, from the designer. But there is another house, which I haven't had a chance to visit, so I do have to come back to Brazil. And it's not far from São Paulo. It's on the beach in, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, Guarujá. And because it was a summer house, a beach house, not the primary residence, Zalszupin could even like let his imagination go further. And as he says in his memoir, tapped into something that was deeply hidden within him, like really express himself. You've already said that the house, the original one, feels very like protected and sheltered and hidden away from the world. The other one is known as a cocoon, and it really is reminiscent of being inside a womb. And it really is interesting to, you know, for the architect to be able to experiment with form, to find himself, to find new architectural ways in his own work.
Yes, indeed, Zuzanna. That's why architecture is so powerful and so strong, and it is an expression of the author. So I worked with Jorge for more than 20 years. I sometimes asked him, but those questions were not even to be asked. So if some of you were able to read his story, and probably you will know even better than we do, because you face probably some same situations with families in the past, etc. So protection, coziness, being inside a cocoon is too related, or a lot related, to his personal history. So for him, this is more important, even though in a country where that wasn't a concern at that time, talk about safeness and everything, but this is his expression. So the house in the beach, like not only this one, that's Marina's house, that's beautiful. It's really the cocoon, but the interesting points, at the same time, he was expressing his memoirs, his feelings, using it as a cocoon, protected, but he was being avant-garde, innovating, working with colors, working with plastic. So this is the mind of someone very, very creative, a master, a genius at some point. Because, of course, this was him, the sense of protection as the coziness, like a cocoon, doing with his hand, with clay, modeling like that. But at the same time, wow, there's a new material that's plastic. So he was the first one to use plastic in like together with the architecture. He used it in some furniture pieces in Marina's houses, but also in a facade of a shopping mall in São Paulo. So he was very, very avant-garde. The same person that the the interior, the expression was like hidden inside, protected, was looking ahead. So I think this is very interesting about him as well.
Absolutely. And he was also very like prolific throughout his life. He had a company called L'Atelier. It was a furniture making company. He had designed a lot of apartment buildings and in Brazil, throughout Brazil. So but it's interesting because the furniture came from the necessity where he would be asked by clients to design furniture pieces for the houses he would design for them. And he was like, why do I have to every single time individually when I could just have a furniture line? So kind of bringing us back into the thing that you do, which is furniture.
True, Zuzanna, but that's the motto of Brazilian modernism. So how Brazilian modern design was born as a necessity, because we first came the architecture, first came Warszawczyk, that was a Ukrainian architect, arrived in Brazil in the 20s. He did his very first modernist house in Brazil in 28, and it was very modern, very different from the colonial, from the traditional architecture that we had in the past. So what to use inside? I think nothing would fit. So they had to create, and that's why most of the modern furniture was created by architects. Same thing with Zalszupin, but a bit different. He was an architect, was projecting buildings. He did a very important building in one of the most important streets in São Paulo, like the financial street that's still there. He did houses. But he was answering for clients' inquiries as well, creating furniture for them. But he went beyond. He exceeded himself in terms of quality, design, elegance, creativity. So he really was a huge designer, like a great designer, not just like as an answer for his own architecture, but especially as an answer for all the other architecture. So different than sometimes that one did just for themselves. That's how L'Atelier was born as well. So he became really famous. His pieces were very, very like wish pieces for all of them, for all the architects. And that's L'Atelier became probably the most avant-garde, the most important company for furniture in Brazil at that time, together with another Terreiro that was from Rio and also very important.
And I wouldn't be myself if I didn't ask you about the like sustainability aspect of your work, which I know that you're very much committed to at ETEL, because the pieces that you will see upstairs, these are mostly re-editions of the original pieces from late 1950s, from the 60s, that came from ETEL's showrooms in Milan and in São Paulo. How are they different from the original pieces? Like, how do you adapt to our, current environmental realities?
Thank you for the question, Zuzanna. First of all, we were the first company to edit or re-edit furniture in Brazil. That wasn't common. That wasn't a practice. So we were the first one, and it wasn't from us. So we were asked to do so by a family that said, "ETEL, you had such an exquisite craftsmanship, such an exquisite finishing. If someone could bring those pieces back, this person is you." So that's how we started with a family, not Zalszupin at that time, bringing back with the same or even better quality in the past. Remember, as I said, that Brazil in the 50s, 60s, we were the most avant-garde country for that. We had the most exquisite design production. Modern architecture was praised by the world. So we had such a high bar, high standard to achieve. But we were a company at the time dedicated to rediscover this craftsmanship, this quality, those techniques to do it. And with Zalszupin, I prefer to call it even edition, not re-edition, because re-edition is just when you just take the piece 100% and then you do it with no interference by the designer, because he's not here anymore. We just had the foundation. But with Zalszupin, we worked together 20 years. And our methodology to do editions or re-editions, the first thing, we only work with primary source. What I mean by primary source? The family, the daughters, himself, he was all the designer when possible. That's a fortune, that's really a privilege. And then we started from it, from the primary source. Then we study, we understand together the original drawings. If possible, we are very loyal to the original drawings. So the pieces you see in terms of design, they are as it is in the past, or even better. In the case of Jorge, it was a privilege because he had the most avant-garde, the highest quality, and said, it was a very important compliment for us that we have exceeded his expectations on that. We went further. But we have to face the concerns of today, Zuzanna, and this for us is very, very important. We are talking about the past, but we are acting the present and facing the future. So we have concerns today, and sustainability is one of the most important ones. So most of the woods that were famous in the past, especially jacaranda, is no longer available. And even if it were, we wouldn't use. So what is the best way to bring this piece back, to produce these pieces, being loyal, being very faithful to the original design, but being updated with our concerns. So in Brazil, we were also pioneer. We were the first company to be certified by FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council, is a German organization, now a worldwide international organization, to certify the usage of woods. So we have to have a provenance. The woods we use are certified woods, means that we are not extracting the wood, we are harvesting the wood. So we only buy for very, very reliable sources. And that was a discussion with Jorge as well, because some of these woods weren't common in the past, weren't used. At the first sight, he said, "Oh, this is strange. Are you sure, Lissa, this will work?" I said, "Yes, it's a different aesthetic maybe, but with the same quality, the same design, it will look amazing." So some of the pieces you see here, they are with these woods that he has not used in the past, but he agreed upon. He understood the story, and of course, as I mentioned, that he was like working with a cocoon in terms of architecture, but at the same time using plastic inside of it. He said, "Oh, this is nice. This is how it should be." Not just looking back, but using the past to really mirror the future. So this is how we work with editions or re-editions. I'm the ambassador for the legacy of Lina Bobardi by the Institute Bardi. I'm also the ambassador of Oscar Niemeyer Foundation. So I dedicated a long part of my job, of my time, preserving this memory, promoting the legacy. And those pieces, the re-edition, the edition, they are very powerful to do that because, as I said, they are in Brazil. Furniture means something that's mobile, that can travel, so it's not fixed as an architecture, so it's portable, so they can travel, they are here, so through the furniture you can sense how precious he was, how elegant he was, his legacy. He's known as the most elegant designer in Brazil and worldwide. You can even see some signature. If you see the brass button in almost all the pieces, you can say, "Oh, this is yours. This is kind of his signature." So this is how we became worldwide famous. We were the pioneer to do that in Brazil, even before the Italians were doing. And we don't think about the piece. We think about the story completely, the person, the author, his ideas. So those pieces they have to be loyal also, not only to the original design, but to the aesthetic, to the philosophy of their original creators. So I knew Jorge. I'm very close to the daughters, to Marina and to Veronica. So sometimes we discuss, is this fabric appropriate? Would your father liked it? Is this wood? And this is how I do with all the families and institutions. So it's really continual legacy, going again to the other question.
And this is amazing that you have this, relationship, that this is all in agreement, that you were able to forge this relationship while Jorge was alive. And this is this continuation. And you will see for yourself upstairs, the pieces are timeless. Like, I mean, they've not aged one bit. Like, good design does not go out of fashion. I'm actually quoting Tony here, but it was a very good sentence. Yes, that's why furniture is the new fashion. Something that me and Lissa will be discussing at a later point in Warsaw. I know it's tough. It's a tough question, and artists very much dislike it. But I am curious if you do have a beloved piece of Jorge's design. I know it's impossible to choose one.
Yeah, this is a tough, difficult question. I did the same thing. I asked him myself, sometime like longer, probably after 10 years, or I don't even remember how many years working together. I said, now, Jorge, it's like the tough question I'm going to ask. Which is your favorite piece? I said, Lissa, this is not a question to be asked. You're asking if which daughter do I prefer, which family member. Of course, I like everything. If not, I would have not produced it or designed it. I said, I know, but I know you have some... there has to be one that is your favorite. And then he didn't answer if it was the favorite or not, but he explained me the reasons. And I have two favorites, but one of them that's here, like, so the two probably going to figure out very easily. The two that we highlighted, they are very, very important. But the Dinamarquesa chair, when I asked him, his eyes were like bright and said, Lissa, that was the first chair I did for myself. And with that chair, it started a different life, because I used to work for the clients. I was thinking with their thoughts, with their necessity, and I was always answering. And then one day, I designed it for me. And you know that I'm quite a huge fan of Oscar. He called him Oscar of the time, and he had many anecdotes about Oscar and everything. So everyone thinks, and he had this very peculiar sense of humor. So the chair is called Danish chair. That everyone will think
in Polish, no, because it's known as Dunka, because I think that people Dinamarquesa, they might not understand the origins of it.
Yeah, so that's nice as well for you to hear in Polish. So it's that everyone will think it's related to Denmark, to the Scandinavian design. They'll think I was inspired by it, but not. I was inspired by the columns of what other columns in Nehemiah's of what other columns in Brasilia. So this is pretty much Brazilian, but I'll let them think it's Danish. So that's became my favorite chair. First because of this, and then because it states something that's very dear for me, and very can be a statement. What is Brazilian modern design, and why we became so famous, so desirable worldwide. Brazilian design is sensual in a way, like to be sensed. You have to see, you have to touch, you have to smell the movement that you do when you sit on the chair. So this is pretty much our vision of a good design. So it's not just beautiful, it's sensual and sensorial. So when it's interactive, you can really interact with the chair. So I think I cannot have another besides this one.
Although I know that there are some designs that have not yet been realized, some drawings, because upstairs you'll see not just furniture, but also the whole creative process behind it. Do you have any future plans to realize them? Is there a Lissa armchair in the making?
Yeah, always good, tricky questions. Yes, of course we do. So this first was a surprise. I think Marina is here to agree with me. One of the surprises we had. So first we had the shock, the impact of the loss of Jorge, even though he was 98, was expected, but it's hard even though. And then we had the process of emptying the house as a family residence that has been a family residence, their family residence for more than 6 years. And then the architecture arose in such a way that we were, wow, it really, it's marvelous. And then we were day after day, month after month, discovering some treasuries. And we discovered he was very quiet in that perspective. He wasn't telling us everything he was doing, but he was producing a lot. He left many, many sketches, many drawings, amazing drawings. And of course, we think on releasing it, on launching it. We are very capable of doing that because we've worked together for 22 years. And one of, when he designed Veronica, the new chair from the scratch, he was always telling us, why do you only like the old pieces? He was 80-something, almost 90. Don't you think I'm capable of designing new pieces? And of course you are, Jorge. Let's do it. And I had that in mind, that I thought that he was, because he gave us the drawing of Veronica and he was always thinking, but he never gave us this design. So he was producing, design. So we know that that was his wish to continue working. He worked until the last minute when he managed to. So he was always thinking, designing. So I think that'll be another great tribute to do, to release Unseen, our new designers from him.
Absolutely. I would love to open up the space for some questions or reflections. Like I said, we also have Marina present here with us. We also have Lissa's daughter in here, so who's actually an expert in sustainability. So continuing on the family ties. I know you've not seen the exhibit just yet, so it might be difficult to have a point of reference, but
I have a question about the wood because I have a question about the wood because you told us that you're not using rosewood anymore. What kind of woods are you using now, making those re-editions?
Good question, Hannah. Most of the pieces you see, we have probably four woods here, probably more, but the four more important ones. The very reddish wood that looks like rosewood is pau-ferro in Portuguese, iron wood in English. And that wood he used to use in the past, but we can still find it in a sustainable source and a reliable source only in veneered. But the good thing that Jorge was also very avant-garde in the techniques of production, because it's very common in Brazil to use hard wood, solid wood. But he used to use veneered and recomposed veneer to become solid wood. So we are lucky enough to still have this wood available. But besides that, the dark one we have in Buia, the Dinamarquesa. It's difficult because they are all Brazilian woods, so with Brazilian names. But very famous wood in Brazil as well, that we have on our inventory. We kept a lot of this wood that we still can use for very special pieces. We don't use it for everything. And then we have these two that I mentioned that are three. Here we have two, but we have 3 or 4 that are certified wood coming from sustainable forests. Even the iron wood is certified wood, so comes from sustainable sources.
Anyone else, or are you just very eager to go see it for yourself upstairs? Well, Lissa, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for making this happen, for bringing Zalszupin Jerzy back home to Poland, to Warsaw. It's a little bit as loud as São Paulo right now, right?
It's just for me to
just getting a sense of the
This is São Paulo, not Warsaw.
Yes.
But it's been an honor and a pleasure to be here with such an important, such an emotional exhibition. Thank you all. Thank you, Hannah. I would love to thank Maria as well. It's been a great partners in crime. We've joked together, so we did nice work together. So I hope you all liked the exhibition.
Thank you so much.